Blah 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 blah.
It's just the way you said it. Actually. There you go. Anything else? Are you sure? We've got plenty of hydration going on here. Tea, water, Pepsi, nice Pepsi, with fresh ice.
Yeah, James, fuck off. We'll come and get onto the podcast. Hello, everybody. We're live. I'll tell you what TV here, the unofficial F1 podcast. I'm glad I started that when I did, because I got Vicky telling you to fuck off.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Music dies out. Fuck off.
Yeah, okay, so we're here today to talk about the Canadian Grand Prix. And to be fair, I think there's only one place to start, guys. What an amazing win for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Oh, it was without doubt, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It was his all the way through.
Yeah, he dominated.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to know what James's views are. I know that James has been gagging all weekend on Monday and Tuesday to be able to say something.
What the fuck has Vicky been doing to him if he's been gagging?
It's, well, you don't know.
No.
That reminds me, actually, Dave, I need a decal making for Gran Turismo Sport. Instead of snap-on, I want strap-on.
I'm not making that.
That's going to be another strike.
I'm not making that. Right, okay. So obviously the big talking point of the weekend is Vettel and his 5-second penalty, and it's been a while, but James has made us a picture, the first one being something to do with controversy, James. If it's not spelt right, by the way, folks, blame James, not me. I didn't double check it.
I'm dyslexic. Sorry, I'm seeing the burger here. Steve, let's get your thoughts.
while you're eating your burger.
Well, thing is, my thoughts are quite in depth, right? I was actually reading an article from Jolyon Palmer, and I agree 100% with what he says, right? And I'm going to read parts of this article to you to see if you agree or disagree.
Jolyon Palmer.
Jolyon Palmer. Yeah. Right. By the letter of the law, Vettel was guilty.
Yeah.
He either crowded the driver off the circuit, in other words, pushing Hamilton into towards the wall from the exit of turn 4 to the point where the Mercedes driver had to put the brakes on to avoid collision, or his natural momentum took him across the full width of the circuit, but in that case he is guilty of rejoining the circuit in an unsafe manner, as he was not in full control of his car. to the extent that Hamilton ran off the road in an unsafe manner. Basically, he had to move Hamilton off the road, right? In both ways, whichever way you look at it, it would have been a penalty. It goes on to say about the stewards. In the past, they've been a bit patchy with the decisions, and the drivers. They've been a bit patchy with the decisions, and the drivers have been wanting clarity, and they've been wanting consistency in the decision making. Well, this brings me on to my next point, which is Max Verstappen and Kimi Raikkonen at the final chicane in Japan last year. Yeah, only 11 races ago. Now, if you don't remember it, Max Verstappen had Kimi Raikkonen behind him. Max Verstappen locks up and goes over the chicane, the last couple of corners at Japan. And as he returns back to the track, he gives Kimi Raikkonen no room at all. There's no contact, but Kimi Raikkonen has to go off the track to avoid him. Max Verstappen, 5-second penalty. What is the difference? None. So if that's a penalty, so would this be a penalty? So there's consistency in that. But also, I mean, I have been a bit frustrated in a way with the fact that a lot of the ex-Formula One drivers and Formula One drivers have been saying it's not great for the sport. I don't give a shit whether it's great for the sport or not, because at the end of the day, if you're watching a football match and the referee goes, you just handballed it in the box and that was a goal-scoring opportunity, I'm sorry, but that's a red card, you're getting sent off. The crowd or pundits don't go, oh, that spoiled the game, they shouldn't do that, we should rethink that and allow him to play on. Sorry, if that's the rules, that's the rules. He's got a 5-second penalty, deal with it.
Yeah.
Interesting. See, I okay, right. I can understand everything that you've just said there, but I didn't like how. I thought it interesting that the pundits on Sky found it difficult to describe why they thought it wasn't a penalty. And for me, this is how I would describe my thinking that it shouldn't have been a penalty, right? And that is that Vettel messed up and went off the track, right? For me, it wasn't an unsafe return to track because he was still having his incident. So for me, it's not a return to the track, it's a continuation of the incident that he is having that has resulted in him being positioned on the track where he is. So for me, the terminology of unsafe return is going off the track and then purposefully returning to the track in an unsafe manner, right? So for me, I wouldn't say that this comes into the category of an unsafe return to track, because for me, he was still having his incident, and that incident hadn't ended until he'd actually got the car straightened up, which was just after Hamilton had to get on the brakes. So for me, it shouldn't have been a penalty. Personally, I don't think it should have been a penalty. But I suppose when you look at the rules,
you don't think it should have been. You don't think it should have been that penalty.
It shouldn't have been a penalty for an unsafe return to track, because
what
it
about
wasn't
crowding a car off the circuit, or looking at it, another aspect of it, which is okay. He's had an incident, and that incident has forced another driver off the track.
That's a completely different scenario.
No, it's the same. It's the same one.
Well, no, it's not.
Steve. Hang on, Steve. I finished my burger there. Right. In a court of law, I'm talking to Dave here.
All right.
In a court of law, did Sebastian Vettel leave the racetrack?
Yes.
So therefore, he left the racetrack and rejoined.
He didn't rejoin. He ended up back on the racetrack.
Yeah. So he technically left the racetrack and rejoined.
No, technically he did leave the racetrack, but he didn't rejoin. He returned.
So where did he go?
I would argue the terminology of the wording you are trying to force into my mouth, young man. You can't handle the truth, motherfucker.
You can't handle the truth. yeah.
When his car returned to track, was it in a safe manner?
It was in the only manner that could. Well,
Was it safe?
but this is the thing that this is the point that I'm. Hang on. Wait. This is the thing that I'm trying to say, though, right? In that he was still having his incident, right? Whether it was unsafe or not, for me, isn't relevant to this. Okay, I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, do you remember when at Spa, I think it was it Kevin Magnussen went off at the top of Eau Rouge and hit the wall and his head restraint came out?
Mm-hmm.
Right, now let's just hypothetically say that he'd actually hit the wall and bounced across the track, right, all the way across the track, and as he'd done so, had done so just in front of another car that had to bang the brakes on. Is that an unsafe return to track? No, he's still having his incident. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. All right, in that Vettel he's having his incident. He's not returning. Sorry, let me get my terminology correct before you pick me up on it. You won't, because he's not rejoining the track. An unsafe return to, whichever the fucking word is, I don't know. It's not an unsafe return to track because he's still having his incident. It's one thing. Right now, you can argue, was it unsafe, right, or did he force Hamilton towards the wall? Yeah, argue that. It's not the same thing though as an unsafe return to track. That's what I would say.
See,
All right. What are your thoughts though on what a lot of people have said, which was it wasn't great for the sport that it took the battle away from us?
Now,
I think that's irrelevant.
Yes and no, right? It definitely did affect the race, but at the end of the day, the rules are the rules, the penalties are the penalties, and if they're applied, and you deal with it. What I would say is, I'm glad that Hamilton at least took it upon himself to go, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to go for it anyway. I'm going to try and pass him, and then no one can say shit. Because for him sitting in that car, he's either sat there and thought, oh, I'd be a bit pissed if that was a penalty given to me, or he's thinking, oh, this might not look very good or entertaining, I don't want to sit back and win it from second. So I'm glad that he actually took the approach of, fuck it, let's go get him. Unfortunately, he couldn't, so the controversy continues.
So what happens then if you... Because obviously reports have come out now that Ferrari want to appeal it, even though it's supposed to be an unappealable penalty. They can't appeal it, but they're looking into appealing it, right? But in my opinion, it shouldn't be appealed, because Mercedes could quite easily counter that and say, well, hang on a minute, we did not even though he was trying, they could quite easily say, all we were doing was keeping close to him and putting him under pressure, because we knew we didn't need to overtake him.
Yeah.
There was no risk to putting him into another position of doing the same thing for us. We just needed to stay close with him, and if he made another mistake, so be it. But there was no point in us risking going up alongside him to try and make the overtake.
I mean,
the decision that would be taken in a court of law if Ferrari turned around and said, look, we're really going to go ahead with this, and we're going to say we think we should have won that, and that penalty was unjust, right? It would require every single team up and down the pit lane to go, yep, I agree with that. And Mercedes-Benz, number one, is never going to agree to that, whether it's right or wrong. And number two, Red Bull would never agree to that due to the incident that you've just noted earlier, where it'd be like, well, hang on, our driver got exactly the same penalty. Yeah,
I mean that's in a court of law, that would be the damning factor, right? If Max Verstappen was given a 5-second penalty for an unsafe return to track, forcing another car off the track, then a judge would basically look at it, or you'd think would look at it and go, well, look, the precedent was set last year, so
we've done what the fans asked for. They asked us to be consistent. We've gone and done it, and now they're all mourning.
I mean, I think the big question. Well, no, I'm not. Well, I'm not. I mean, okay. Is it good for the sport? It doesn't matter. Rules are rules. Like you said with like the reference to football. Rules are rules. You play by them and you stick by them. And sometimes penalties or decisions are given incorrectly. This is one of those that, I mean, difference of opinion is a factor here. I mean, let's put it this way. If it had been Vettel in Hamilton's seat, would Vettel have made the call to his team to say, oh, that's not on, and would Ferrari have made the call to the race directors to go, oh, this isn't on? Of course they fucking would have done, right?
Yeah.
So no one can say, oh, Mercedes were in the wrong for sort of making light of it. They weren't in the wrong. But personally, what I would say is you look at how many racers, right, professional racers have looked at that incident and gone, I don't think it's the right decision. I mean, for example, I'm going to give you a few examples. Brundle said may as well pack up and go home. Andretti said it's not acceptable. Johnny Herbert said it's wrong, wrong, wrong. Alan McNish said it's a tough decision for Vettel. Alexander Wirtz said a penalty, not in his view. Damon Hill, there was enough doubt to let them carry on. Mansell, very, very embarrassing. Coulthard, whatever happened to racing? Chandok, it's just racing. Button, it doesn't deserve a penalty. Van der Gaard, wouldn't go to the podium if I was Vettel, honestly. Webber, mental penalty. De Grassi, make racing great again. Chilton, all drivers know Vettel could have not gone back to power and joined safely on the inside. Casey Stoner, F1, that is the worst decision you have ever made. Jason Plato, don't know if I'd trust his decision anyway, but he said terrible decision, and I'm not sure if this quote is right or not, or true or not, but Hamilton, I'd have done the same as Vettel.
Right.
Can I just counter that? Because this is the best opinion of all. Nico Rosberg, Vettel made a mistake. It's his problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
There you go.
But that list of what you've just read out, I saw it as well on Facebook. I was going to make reference to it today, but you've done that already. But one thing that list doesn't do is have anything countering it with anyone else's views,
True.
giving it the opposite way. Like I mentioned, Jolyon Palmer is one of them.
And Nico
I mean,
Rosberg.
like you were saying, it all comes down to people's opinion. That list has been created of all the people,
With
not
that
all the
opinion.
people, but with people with that opinion. So it does come down to opinion. And when it comes down to opinion, what can the stewards do other than stick to the rule book?
And as well with opinion, it's a bit like a big dirty nose. Everybody's got one, haven't they?
Yeah, or as Mansell once said, every male's got a cock.
Yeah.
Right, anyway. Jenson Button made a good point when he was talking to Kroon Chandok after the race, which was, why couldn't the stewards have looked into it after the race? So allowed the drivers to race to the flag with it hanging out. I know that the stewards like to get things done so that whoever's crossed the line, or when the drivers cross the line, we know what's going to happen with the order of the cars straight away. Makes it easier for the podium rather than having to turn something over at a later date. But wouldn't it have been better for the fans viewing to have seen them race to the end and then, in retrospect, penalised him if that was what was necessary?
That last happened, obviously, in 2008 at the Belgian Grand Prix, and it went down like a shitstorm. So either way, the FIA have got to give out these rules, and like you say, people at the track should have looked at it and gone, well, he's been given a 5-second time penalty. There's 20 seconds remaining. At the point the 5-second penalty was given, the gap between Hamilton and Vettel was 3.1 seconds. He needed another 1.9 and he'd have won the race. But instead, he lost his shit. And what did he do? He just started crying over the radio, not focused, and Hamilton was up his arse rest of the race. So
Not only that, Leclerc nearly pinched second from him.
yeah, and well, this is it as well, right? You're just kind of thinking to yourself, if Vettel had... I tell you, this is the problem why Germans and a lot of fans are not a fan of Vettel, right? It's because he comes across like, oh, well, his record's saying he's the next Schumacher. I tell you now, I'm not a fan of Schumacher, but I know what Schumacher would have done. He would not
He'd have put Hamilton in the wall.
Yeah, he would have put Hamilton in the wall. Well, Vettel would have put Hamilton in the wall. Hamilton had to slam all on. So that's the only similarity is the dirtiness, right? Not of the tyres, of the driver. The difference is Ross Brawn had gone, right, Schumacher, got a bit of a problem. We've just been given a 5-second penalty. We can still win this.
Yeah.
We've got 3.1 seconds on the clock. We need qualifying laps. Every lap, you need to just race your heart out. You can win this. Did that happen? Did it fuck? Schumacher, you wouldn't have heard all from him, and you just seen him going like a machine. Vettel, it's throwing me fucking toys out of pram. I'm 6-year-old. I'm sorry, I just sat there and just thought... It was just hilarious to watch him lose his shit, because I'm like, yeah, you're just proving the point that you're nowhere near the champion of a true great like Michael Schumacher.
Well, what's your thoughts on when he swapped over the first and second place boards?
Well, that just proved my point once again. He just did it once again. He lost his shit in the car. He got out and he lost his shit out before he got on the podium. You know what I'd have said after he did that? I'd have gone, right, sorry, you've interfered with parts there, mate. Fuck off.
Okay, right. I liked it. I thought it was brilliant television. It was entertaining.
It was brilliant television, but the authorities just looked a bit like, oh well, we're all hanging on the driver now for the TV cameras. Whereas I'd been like, if he don't want to show up to podium, so what? I'd have started podium celebration, and then when he'd have been forced to come out, it'd have been like, oh well, we thought you'd run off. Sorry.
Well, I was trying to think back to when may have been the last time that there was only 2 drivers on the podium instead of 3, and I can't say I could think of one. But okay, I mean, I look at it this way. I still think the penalty was harsh. I think if I'd have been the steward in that situation, I don't think I would have given a 5-second penalty. I really wouldn't. I mean, let's put it this way, right? After everything that's been said, would you two have given him the 5-second penalty?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why I say yes. As soon as it happened, my gut was, that's not right.
Yeah, same here. My gut was, I know he didn't have, I know, he was out of his, as you say, he was out of control and he was still having his incident. But for me, sitting there, I just thought to myself, look, you might be out of control, but I'm sorry, you've just made another driver slam all on. If Lewis Hamilton had thought he's going to leave the car's width here, which he didn't, because he couldn't apparently, and even if he couldn't, that have technically put Lewis Hamilton out of the race. Another driver should not be forced to slam on the brake to risk not finishing a race. That is my argument.
Also, in Monaco at the chicane, in Formula 2 this year, they did something a little bit different, which is if a driver outbrakes himself into that chicane and keeps their position, they got a penalty.
Interesting.
See, I've thought of something which would be a nice alternative to tricky situations, right? You know, like we've got the current regulations where we always say the stewards should be a bit more so that the audience can understand what's going on with the stewarding and all this lot, so that when a penalty is given, you're a bit like when you see a referee on football, you can tell before a decision's given whether a referee's going to fucking go for it and give a red card.
Yeah.
Or, you can tell there's a build-up, your brain's going, oh, what they're going to do. Whereas with Formula 1, the commentary receives the message about 10 seconds before the viewers do. So before the viewers know what the problem... Well, what the steward's decision is, you've already got biased, or you've already got a biased decision from a commentator. First thing Martin Brundle said were, "Oh no." Well, straight away, that's something where everybody watching goes, "Oh no."
But why did he say that?
Because he thought, "Oh, that's robbed us of the race."
And that is one of my things I was mentioning earlier, which is, so what? In a way, yes, it's robbed us of a race.
It's robbed us of the race,
it's
but
not.
That's Sebastian Vettel's problem.
It's Vettel's problem. And did it rob us of a race? Well, not really, because Vettel at that point needed to pull out a 5-second gap, and he couldn't.
Well,
that was the next race, which was he needed to be 5 seconds ahead.
No, yeah. All that needed to be told were somebody clearly from Ferrari of, look, we know what Sebastian Vettel gets like. If he gets tetchy, he loses his shit. We need somebody, a bit like in Mercedes, you know, when you hear that James, it comes on the radio, and it's really like stirs like.
Well, okay, I'm going to ask you a question then, right? Do you think that Sebastian Vettel's engineer is not strong enough to be his engineer? Because personally, in his voice, it's not a voice that I would listen to. It's a bit like, he
used to have Rocky at Red Bull, and he used to put him in his place sometimes.
Yeah. Now Rocky
voice of authority.
Yeah, Rocky would probably say something like, "Look, just shut up and drive as fast as you can and open that gap." And
he needs Gunter Steiner as his engineer.
Well, he does. I was going to get on to that with Gunter Steiner coming on and to Kevin Magnussen saying, "Look, this is enough now. Just shut up. Get on with it."
Fucking idiot. Kevin, shut the fuck up.
I didn't know Gunter was South African.
He is South African, isn't it? I'm sure he is.
He
sounds a bit South African. Shut the fuck up, Kevin.
Is the sweetie man coming? Okay, I've still got your second picture up on the screen, James, right? So, what's with the switch up, stitch up?
Well, is it a switch up, stitch up?
As in, like, is it the FIA going, we don't want you winning Vettel?
And as well, he switched the 1 and 2 round, so that's where my media brain kicked in. Right. Switch up, stitch up.
Okay, so what about this bit? Could this be the pressure of a looming Alonso Ferrari return for 2020?
No,
that's something that's been in my mind ever since Indy 500 went tits up with Alonso.
John Renault will be the next Ferrari driver. Danny Rick. It'll be Danny Ricciardo. That's what it'll be. It'll be the next Ferrari driver. I'm not saying that Hamilton won't go there, but Danny Ricciardo will be the next Formula 1 driver at Ferrari.
Interesting. Stephen Whitfield has just said on YouTube, said he thinks that Vettel will retire at the end of the season. Now, interestingly, when Vettel spat his dummy out when he brought his car back into Parc Fermé, at that point I thought I could see him retiring, you know. I could see him going, you know what, this is bullshit. I'm done.
I'm going to go to Formula E.
Oh, God. Jeez.
No, but do you know what, though, right? I've lost my train of thought.
Choo.
I'll tell you something. I really do think ever since Indy 500 finished, I've had this idea of Alonso coming back to Formula 1. And he ain't going to come back to nobody. He needs to come back to a potential, the top 3 teams. And it ain't going to be, Mercedes-Benz, we're already on the table, and they took Bottas up. And Bottas, once again, had one of his days off. And like Rosberg said, if he keeps having them days off, there's no way he can fight in championship. Because then you look at end of season and go, I missed out by 5 points. It's like, yeah, but what were you fucking doing down there?
Well, I mean, the thing is 29 points behind Hamilton now.
Yeah.
That can be caught up, though, quite reasonably quick if Hamilton has a mechanical failure.
Potentially. Okay, so obviously we've talked about Hamilton Vettel quite a bit there, but I've got to say, I found quite large portions of the race a little bit boring, but I definitely enjoyed qualifying when Kevin Magnussen fucked himself up into the barrier. I've got to admit, I laughed about that one.
It was more funny the fact that he fucked up his teammate more.
as well, yeah.
No. Well, this is it. I really do think I've watched back the footage, right? And the team radio led you to believe that Kevin had really fucked up Grosjean's lap. And then you also heard Grosjean's engineer going, "Oh, we were on for a really good one then."
He wasn't, though.
If you watch back at that final chicane, this is prior to Magnussen. I think Magnussen hit the wall and carried on. You watch Grosjean into that final chicane. I'm looking at it with the onboard on the HD, and you cannot tell that Magnussen's lost it. And as any driver, you're focusing qualifying, all you're thinking about is that apex to the final chicane. Getting the braking right, getting that chicane right. You watch that replay and Grosjean almost flies into fucking pit. And then goes, "Oh, Kevin. And it's like, no. Yeah, Kevin's fucked you up. But that's a get out clause. That was an instant get out for, fucked up final chicane. And then he thought, "Oh, thank God I've got somebody else to blame now." And he went, "Oh, Kevin." It's like, no. You would have not made it through qualifying because you lost half a second in the final chicane. So you need to watch that. Watch that back. That was something I picked up on today when I was looking at onboards.
Fair enough. I mean, we've hinted about Gunter Steiner's comments. I mean, okay, was it wrong for Magnussen to come on the radio during the race and say, "This is by far the worst car I've ever driven"?
Well, it's it's basically just a bit disrespectful, isn't it?
Wow. Go on, Steve. It sounded like you was going to say something there.
I think, though, that there's nothing wrong with him saying how difficult the car is to drive. I think it's just more the way it came across.
Yeah.
Well, we always say he's a cocky knobhead, so it's well within his nature. You'd think that the management at Haas know that he's a dickhead.
Yeah, but it just goes to show how shit the Williams is if only one of them managed to get past him.
Yeah, well, the thing is for me, right, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how shit the car is to drive. Surely there's got to be a part of him that sits there and goes, "Look, I know everyone worked really hard to fix the car after my fuck up, but this car's really tough to drive, guys. It's dangerous." That's totally different this is by far the worst car I've ever fucking driven. I mean, that's the equivalent. Well, it's not quite the equivalent, but it's a bit like Fernando Alonso say he could have said this. I haven't got a lot of speed on the straights, but instead he went GP2 engine. This is GP2 engine, which is a major dig at the manufacturer. So
is he Japanese?
He is, yeah. He's trying to get into Toyota, isn't he?
He's Messerschmitt. Oh no, not a Messerschmitt.
Messerschmitt, it's German. Fucking hell.
What was it? Mitsubishi Zero. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so definitely very disrespectful. What I found interesting as well in the race, though, was Pierre Gasly. I know the racing point is pretty decent in a straight line, but if you're in a Red Bull, you should be beating an ex-Force India with ease at any racetrack. So,
I've already said he should be out of the car.
Yeah, I mean,
they need to put either Kvyat or Albon in, and on merit and the way he's driving at the moment, I'd stick Kvyat in.
Yeah,
might as well.
Kvyat did some really good overtakes, to be fair. There was one he did where a couple of laps before, someone had a bit of a look of an overtake into turn 1 and 2, and Crofty was like, "Oh yeah, you don't really want to be sticking your car into that gap." And then 2 laps later, "Danny Kvyat, what an amazing overtake into turn 1." And it was an amazing overtake. He was like, "Look, I'm faster, I'm going for it, I'm through, thank you very much."
Yeah.
What did you think, though, to them pitting Albon's car to just save the engine because he was out of the points? I mean, if half the grid did that, it'd be a bit boring, wouldn't it?
I didn't think you were allowed to do that unless you had a mechanical failure.
No, I mean they had blocked up brake ducts early on and had to change the front wing.
They found a loophole there. They've just gone, brake ducts. It's dangerous.
Well, no, right. The thing is, when it comes, I mean, this has been you look at any of the top teams when they've had a driver having a bit of an off race that's outside the top 10, how often they retire the car under safety grounds, whether it be safety of the engine or the brakes or the hydraulics or whatever it may be. That's what they do, and I think it spoils the event, and that's why I think they should have points all the way down for every position. But at a track like Canada, right, the first pit stop was at the end of lap 1, and it was a longer pit stop for changing the front wing and clearing the brake ducts. Canada is one of those tracks where you need your brakes, and if you've got a blocked brake duct, that's going to result in brake failure.
I reckon that's what the problem was with Norris. I reckon he had a rear brake duct blocked.
Quite possibly.
And that's why it overheated.
I mean, I thought he'd hit the Wall of Champions. I couldn't believe that he'd actually driven around the corner and then his fucking suspension just collapsed.
Yeah. That was bad.
Well, he went off on the approach to the final chicane. So I reckon that's when it's probably gone under braking. So yeah, it's an odd one. And at that point, I was thinking, God, how many more cars are going to have the same problem?
Yeah.
But it must have just been the fact that he'd got a rear brake duct blocked, and that's why it's overheated that bad, that severe.
Quite
possible.
possible.
They must have had some warning, some temperature warning.
You'd think, well, it depends. I mean, if it's brake temperatures going up, then yes. But if it's would they have a temperature sensor looking at the suspension? Probably not, because you wouldn't expect it to get that hot.
No, but you'd have brake temperature, and that would be super hot at that point.
Yeah. I mean, up until that point, up until Verstappen got past Norris was having a pretty good race. And to be fair, Lance Stroll, as much as we don't like the unibrow, he actually had a very good race.
He did really.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, Steve really doesn't like him, but he to be fair, he didn't do too bad. Perez, I don't know what happened to him. But yeah, what was that move with Grosjean? I know we've already talked about Haas, but what was that move with Grosjean where I think Kvyat came past him and he went, inform the stewards. I just kind of thought,
that was the overtake I was on about that Kvyat did. He kind of ran him out of room on the exit of the corner, didn't he?
They had the move done though on the approach to the corner, so yeah, it was more the fact that he didn't back out of it early enough.
Oh no, right. There was contact at the apex of turn 1, wasn't there? Wheel to wheel, yeah. That's right.
He just kind of banged. He just a slight bang but it was mainly because Grosjean had left the door wide open and turned in and bang. And I always think to myself that if you're going to bitch and moan over the radio going, he's come past me and he's hit me, and if it's wheel to wheel and there's a bang, I always think to myself, it's your fucking fault. You should have closed the door. You cannot moan. It's just like,
I don't know. There's fine. I was going to say there's fine lines there.
Steve were there, and he banged in at the side of me, and he went through. I went, well done, because I'm like, I left the door wide open.
You didn't say well done to me when I did it to you. You went, fucking hell, you could.
I was thinking, well, that's racing.
Yeah, I mean, there is a difference between leaving the door open because the car behind is way too far behind and then they dive bomb you. There is a big difference between that and a car being close enough and you leaving the door open. I mean, for me, there was nothing in that little bit of contact between the two of them. I mean, we've mentioned before that we don't like it when people squeeze other cars. I mean, okay, let's say, for example, like with the Hamilton-Vettel one. Had Vettel got round the chicane on the track and then done what he did to Lewis Hamilton, it would be deemed as no further action because apparently in Formula 1 you're allowed to run people out a road on the exit of a corner, which I don't agree with. but there would have been no action there at all. So
Yeah.
I do think some of the rules and regs do need looking at. But anyway, what about which one of you two was it that shared with us that apparently Ferrari admitted they forgot to tell Leclerc that Vettel had a 5-second penalty?
Well, they didn't admit it. It was a piece of team radio that came out after the race.
All right.
When the race had finished on the cool-down lap, they explained to Charles what had gone on.
Mm.
And you could even hear in Charles Leclerc's voice, it was a bit like, "Oh, if you'd have told me, I could have got second."
Yeah.
But obviously, in the team point of view, they're not too bothered. But it wasn't until literally on the cool-down lap that they explained to Charles what had happened with Vettel's situation.
I mean, it came across when watching it that they had told him, and he was pushing to get within that 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then on that last lap, he backed out of it. And I thought it was Ferrari saying, keep more than 5 seconds from Vettel.
It probably in his head, if he'd have been told that, he'd have kept his foot in. But when he come round final chicane and he sees Hamilton and Vettel going over the line, he's probably thinking, I'll lift off now. But if he'd have known, he'd have been like, get your foot down because I might get second here. And this is the thing I really do feel like Vettel, he might as well be called Vettel Grand Prix. Fucking Ferrari, it's just a comedy of errors. And they have the potential and talent to win. And they just keep throwing it away because they're all pathetic.
The thing is, Ferrari had a very, very good race weekend.
An amazing race.
Unfortunately, it was Vettel that let them down. I mean, it's another race where a Vettel mistake has cost them points and cost them a win.
Exactly. And that is the reason why I put up that thing saying about Alonso is Alonso could come back to Ferrari and go, do you remember when I used to drive for you? How many mistakes did I make? Do you remember that season? Do you remember that 2012 season when we had a shit car? Do you remember? I think I got us within 6 points. Give me that car.
Two seasons. In 2 seasons, he finished 1 point away.
Yeah. He's going to have so much clout when he comes knocking back on Ferrari's door. Yeah, he might have not left in the greatest of circumstances, but he's going to be knocking on the door going, you've got the car, I'm the driver, you've got a knobhead in that car, who's pathetic. Get me in there, I will win.
I'll tell you someone that Alonso's taken off his Christmas card list. Karun Chandok.
Why?
Wow, reason.
In one of the seasons when Karun Chandok was racing, he held up Alonso.
2010.
It held up Alonso, and it allowed Button to come to close up the gap, and Button was able to overtake Karun Chandok and then Alonso quite quickly afterwards, and that take enough points off Alonso to stop him from winning the championship that season because Karun Chandok held up. In fact, it was Vettel's first championship win.
2010. All right, yeah, 2010. Right, yeah.
Well, here's something else for you, right? Charles Leclerc. I mean, obviously, we all know. Well, we know, and hopefully other people do as well, that Leclerc is a second fiddle driver at Ferrari, no doubt about it. Proven once again by Ferrari for no reason whatsoever, not bringing in Leclerc into the pits when it could have had an effect on the result of the race. Instead, they leave him out, making him lose 10 seconds, and then he's not in the race at all.
He's not in the race, and crucially, he's behind Max Verstappen, so he's behind another car who's potentially going to put up a decent fight. Luckily, Verstappen was in a position where he couldn't really fight, but still, the problem of dropping your driver behind the pack.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it was proven.
Yeah, he was quick near the end of the race, and it was good to see. And now we know that he'd not been told to push; he was just pushing.
Yeah.
So,
but also, he if he had have pitted like the lap after Vettel, he would have been still third. Yeah. But he might have had a bit of back marker problem, like Hamilton could have had. But doing what he did do was because they were hoping that if a safety car comes out, he might jump into first place.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
But if you hoping and praying on a safety
Thing
car.
is-
That's what they were. That's what they were doing. They
Thing
were
is,
keeping
though-
the options open for a safety car.
Thing is, though, what Ferrari should have done, I like the fact that they went, you know what, no one's undercutting us today, you can all fuck off. Brilliant move bringing Vettel into the pits, and it was noticeable straight away in that first sector where it showed the percentage chance of Hamilton jumping him in when he made his pit stop, and the amount of time that Vettel made up in that first lap or first 2 sectors was nearly 2 seconds. At that point,
said to Ferrari.
well, the thing is, at that point, Ferrari should have said to Leclerc, right, come into the pits. Because what happens? Hamilton pits to cover Vettel, but he's already lost that battle, right? But because Leclerc pits at the same time, it makes Hamilton's pit stop harder because he's got a crew to drive around. But it also means that when they come out of the pits, Leclerc's going to be right behind Hamilton. And if Hamilton is going to catch up to Vettel, Leclerc's going to be there to pressure Hamilton and take the pressure off Vettel. That's how it should have been done, not, oh, let's hope for a safety car that may never happen.
Yeah, exactly.
What are your thoughts about Plan B? Because obviously they were saying Plan B. Now, something Leclerc said was Plan B doesn't necessarily mean it's the second option. It could always be our first choice, primary way of dealing with things, you know. But I think basically what it is one way of looking at it is Plan B could be a 1-stop, Plan A could be a 2-stop, and that could be across all Grand Prix. So if they say we're going to go with Plan A, basically that means it's a 2-stop race. If we're going to go with Plan B, it's going to be a 1-stop race. Because they said it to both drivers, not just to one or the other. But I was actually thinking at the time that maybe it could have been what tyres they're going on to, because it was nailed on a 1-stop strategy.
Oh, yeah.
Unless we had an option like Bottas to try and get the fastest lap to a late pit stop. But if it's nailed on 1-stop, could they have ran to then put the softs on at the end instead of going on to the from mediums to hards? I thought that's what the Plan B might have been, but no, it wasn't.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, you look at the lap time that Bottas did. Now, okay, he only had to do 1 lap, but he did a 1:13.0. The race pace was in the 1:16s, 15s, 16s, and 17s. So had one of the front-running drivers, like Hamilton did some years ago in a McLaren, decided 15 laps from the end, let's take a risk and chuck the faster tyres on.
Yeah.
2 seconds a lap faster. You
That's what I
only
was thinking.
you only need 10 laps, and you've got more than your pit stop back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I was thinking all the way through races. We're going, with Karen Chandok going, oh, well, the driver, he's not Russian. Where is he from? Oh, he's Indian.
He's English.
He's English, but he's got a bit of an Indian twang on it. But yeah, anyway, I won't do that because I'll get done for being racist. We're basically trying to explain. What the fuck were I talking about?
Karin Chandok.
Yeah, what were you on about just before that?
Pit stop.
Dunno.
Pit stop
Go on.
faster
Pit
tyres.
stop, faster tyres. Yeah, he were going, oh, well, the thing is you don't want to pit because all the teams know that the 1-stop's the faster strategy. I think even Ted said it as well.
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, but they don't know. Because if they do, the simulation said that.
Yeah.
But in reality, is a different thing. And that's the difference. I feel like the teams now are just so heavily dependent on automation that there's no real human brain going, fuck it, let's roll dice.
Yeah.
We've got nothing to lose. Charles, pit, 20 laps to go, quali laps. See if you can do it.
Yeah. See what you can do. I mean,
Got no to lose.
yeah. The thing is, you look at the season as it's going at the moment. Ferrari, Vettel said, I think after the race, may have even said it before, they're pretty much out of the championship fights. And when you look at the points, well, let's see. In the championship standings, Lewis Hamilton's on 162, Vettel is on 100. So he's already 62 points behind. I can't see, even if Ferrari did something to their car to make it amazing, I can't
changing the driver.
Well, I can't see Vettel having the composure at the moment to get all those points back, because you're still going to have Lewis Hamilton finishing second or third. So I don't think he's ever going to pull those points back. I mean, Bottas, like I said, he's already 29 points behind, and I can't see Bottas overcoming that unless Lewis Hamilton has a couple of races of not finishing with technical issues, mechanical issues, or something like that. But anyway, and in the constructors, I mean, if you're a Ferrari fan, you might not want to see this. Mercedes, 295 points. Would you want to have a guess how much Ferrari are on?
170? No. 170, 190, something around there.
172.
Mm.
Red Bull are closer to Ferrari than Ferrari are to Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is Verstappen still third in the championship?
No. Bottas is second, Vettel's third, and Verstappen is fourth on 88 points. I mean, to be fair, Verstappen's another driver that had a very good race in Canada, given his difficulty. Well, was it his difficulty? He made a mistake in qualifying that ruined a lot of the race for him, but he had a very strong comeback.
I think that just highlighted how off the pace Gasly is, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Gasly started 3 or 4 positions further up the road than him on the grid.
He's just wasting that seat. We've said it from start of season. If he doesn't improve by midway through the season, they need to swap it up at Red Bull. And we said, well, they won't do that because, you know, they don't want to come across like they don't know what they're doing. They're going to look like they don't know what they're doing if they keep him in the car.
Well, the thing is, one way to look at it is, you look at Daniel Ricciardo at Renault, he was definitely struggling early on, and we could tell he was not used to how the Renault coped with braking. He's now, it would appear, got on top of that. So you can see with Danny Ricciardo that, yes, he struggled, but now he's worked his way into it. With Gasly, I'm not seeing that worked his way into it yet.
I've got to admit, with Gasly, I watched his GP2 season, and people were banging on about him, and I were like, he didn't do enough to impress me. And then he were in Toro Rosso, no offence, you don't really get to see Toro Rosso much on telly.
No.
Well, this season you do. But in previous seasons, you've hardly ever seen Toro Rosso. The best result he ever got was that Bahrain in a Toro Rosso. Yeah. And apart from that one race, it just seems like a flash in the pan. He'll have a really good result. And then it just seems like, we say Bottas is his away day. He seems like he's been off all season.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, right, if you've got Max Verstappen, or basically anyone else from the top 3 teams, all right, if they've had a shocking qualifying and they're outside the top 10 on the grid, they're still going to get within the top 6 cars.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see that with Gasly.
No, I don't either, to be fair. I really don't. I'd join you on that one. Let's see, who else can we pick on for James to slag off? Let's see. Let's pick a driver. Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah, I think he said, I won't be in a Formula 1 car if I didn't feel like I were enjoying it. I don't think it's going to be long before he goes, you know what?
I'm not enjoying it. Yeah.
Well, interestingly, I mean, something that the Sky commentary team picked up on is they were wondering over the practice sessions whether Ferrari are using Alfa Romeo as an engine tester in Friday practice 1. Because in Friday practice, the Alfa is within sort of top 5-6 positions, and it's up there on straight line speed. But come Saturday, all of a sudden they're nowhere. So there's a bit of a theory going on that Ferrari have got a lot more control over that Alfa team than would appear normal.
Well, they are the junior. They're the Toro Rosso of for Ferrari, what Red Bull have got with Toro Rosso. That is exactly why they are there. And I tell you why they're there as Alfa Romeo rather than a brand new team. It's leverage. It's leverage so that when these 2021 rules were announced, so we were going to be like, oh, wow, we're going to have more simple engines, more manufacturers will want to join because, you've got to keep it simple and keeping costs down and all this, that and other. And all it's done by allowing, well, you can't really stop them, but with Ferrari purchasing Sauber and turning it into Alfa Romeo, you've now got a situation where Ferrari and Red Bull, if they say, oh, we don't like these rules, we're going to leave, they've got more clout than if they had one team. And that's the reason why the rules have now been changed so that they're going to keep the same engines and they're just going to carry on the way they're doing it. And I bet you're telling that's straight from Ferrari because they'll have gone, we put so much effort in to catch and overtake Mercedes-Benz in engine pace. We're not giving up on these engines. Look how much money we've spent. Ferrari do not care about the sport. And the fact that it was a Ferrari car that ended up with this I can't say the fucking word, controversy regarding the end of the race, I were laughing my head off because I thought, yeah, that serves you right for basically being. I tell you now, they go, oh, Ferrari bringing so much money for Formula One because of the brand recognition. I tell you now, Formula One would be in a way better position without Ferrari on the grid.
Oh yeah, I would agree with you there. Ferrari have way too much of a say. I mean, Claire Williams came out again recently, sort of being negative towards Ferrari's special veto that they've got, which is a bit of a concern when it comes to some of the rules and regulations, because some of these rules and regulations that were proposed, not the final, but a full proposal of the rules and regulations were given to the team owners, I think within the last week. And they're supposed to have a decision made on them within like 2 weeks, I think. But an extension.
I think it's this weekend.
Yeah, an extension has been given on that because teams want to be able to look over the rules even more. But you can guarantee there's going to be a lot of Ferrari saying, no, this doesn't help us. No, this doesn't help us. And this is where, I mean, you mentioned early on, Steve, about or like the incident, the decision is not good for the sport, blah. Well, this is a situation where the FIA have to go, this is where we make the rules and regulations that is good for the sport.
And if that's the case, take away the £800 million a year that Ferrari get. Well, not necessarily 800 million, the additional 500 million that they get more than anyone else because they are Ferrari.
Yeah.
Spread that out between the lower teams. We've got no problem with financial, cost capping. Just share Ferrari's money out. Don't give it Ferrari. They don't need it. They'll still spend the same amount.
They do. They just because they can't fucking.
No, but you know what I mean. Though they will still spend the same amount of money, even if they're not given that.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. If I were Ross Brawn or somebody with that much clout, I would say these are the rules. Like it or lump it. But the problem with allowing teams to purchase more than one team and having so much influence over so many other teams, such as Ferrari, I am sure there'll be a clause, even with Haas, that says any decision we say, you must agree with us to get engines. There must be something there.
Maybe, but you have to remember that Haas don't get a seat on the decision table until their third year, and Alfa Romeo will be exactly the same. Because you think about when Caterham came in, Virgin came in, who else? HRT came in.
HRT.
And Haas came in. one of the things of joining is you have to be in it for 3 years, I believe it is, before you are given a seat on the council, so to speak. And even Force India, although they were the ones, not Racing Point, by the way, Force India, even though they were the ones sort of fronting the argument of, look, you're not sharing the wealth fairly, they actually didn't have any legal footing for that argument. They needed other teams that had the legal footing to do it for them, because they hadn't been in the sport long enough to have the relevant seat to be able to say,
Yeah.
we need to discuss this. But if they could have got a McLaren or a Ferrari or a Red Bull or sort of Williams to go, actually, you know what, they're right, then it would have been different. Now, when you think about it, Force India were going on about this 5-6 years ago. If Williams at that time had actually gone, you know what, we agree with them, so we're going to take up the fight on their behalf, Williams might be in a better situation now, because they'd still be getting a decent whack of money, whereas they're going to be getting pretty much fuck all.
Yeah, but you are right with that. But with this situation, it's like the opposite end of the spectrum. Because with Ferrari owning Alfa Romeo, yeah, they might not get much clout, but they have got clout by saying, Ferrari going, well, we'll leave, and then they'll just get on phone and go, Alfa Romeo, just so that you're going to leave as well. Yeah, cheers. And they'll do exactly what Ferrari do, because they own them. So they have to do whatever Ferrari tells them.
The thing is, though, if
Ferrari put in a decision and it doesn't go their way, they're going to go, oh, we'll take a spat and ball home, and we're not going to take our 2 cars off the grid. We're going to take another 2 cars off the grid.
But let's say, for example, if Bernie Ecclestone was still in charge, he would turn around at that point and go, oh, then fuck off, see ya. And I'd like to think that Chase Carey would do exactly the same thing.
Well, I think that should have been done already. And the fact that it's not happened yet, that Ferrari have not been told where to go, is concerning for me. Because I'm thinking to myself, well, them rules that were brought in for 2021, Ross Brawn did a massive presentation on it about how the cars might look and what he had proposed for the future. Might as well have not even done any work.
Yeah.
Because too many people from other teams have gone, we don't like that rule, we don't like that rule, we don't like that rule. And unfortunately, if you haven't got somebody strong enough to go, okay, fuck off, then...
Well, the one rule they need to change is the one where it allows the teams to have to agree to be able to create a rule.
Yeah, that definitely needs getting rid of.
No Premiership football team gets told, you have a say on how we... So, you have a say on any of the rules.
Well, we want to bring VAR into Premier League, but if one team says no, we're not doing it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, with VAR, the Premier League wanted to bring VAR in, and so did the teams. The teams were basically begging for it, but it was the FIFA, the governing body, basically turned around and said, no, you can't have it because we're going to use it at the World Cup.
But not only that, one of the reasons why it was not allowed for so many years before it was... I mean, it was developed many years ago, but one of the reasons why they'd not been agreeing to... I mean, at the end of the day, it's just watching a replay. That's all it is watching replays from different angles. But one of the reasons why they weren't allowing it before was because of the thoughts of all it's going to do is highlight all the bad mistakes we make. Well, so what if it gets the sport right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, there was a similar thing with NFL, I believe, where they took an approach which could make the referees look bad. And for a while it did, but in the end it meant that the sport ended up going in the right direction. And that's the kind of thing what Formula One needs to do as well. I mean, you mentioned, Steve, about one rule that does need to change. What I will say is, right, and this is not because I'm a Verstappen fan, because I'm not, but when I laughed at Magnussen crashing his car in qualifying, think back to the suggestion I made.
Yeah, he should have been starting at the back of the grid.
He should have been starting at the back of the grid, and whoever was in 11th place at that point of the end of the session should have gone through to Q3, because he could not get his car back to the pits. He was out.
Yeah.
Why have a 9-car session when you could have a 10-car session?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, okay, he ended up starting from the pit lane, but that's only because they had to change the chassis. Had he not needed to, he'd have started 10th.
But it's more about, though, the car that would have been 11th that got promoted to 10th that could have actually been in the qualifying session for the final 10 anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, or a car that perhaps wouldn't usually be there. For example.
As well, you know, I normally come up with these ideas to solve problems in Formula 1. But yeah, I don't get
like your dick.
Me dick, and what else did I suggest? Oh, I even suggested it to my mum about the different tyre manufacturers having a tyre war, but not specific to one team. But say you've got 4 different tyre manufacturers or 3, and the teams have got to use every single tyre manufacturer within a race, and it's not like soft, hard, medium. It's just the Michelin tyre, the Bridgestone tyre, the Pirelli tyre, and that's it.
I've got to admit, as fantastical as that idea is, I'm not a fan of that one. But I have noticed that Karun Chandok has got onto our other idea of just make them use every tyre compound in the race.
Yeah,
that basically makes them have a 2-stop strategy every race, then minimum.
What about that? Could I just ask you, Dave? What about that do you not like?
Okay, if you've got, say, for example, 3 different tyre manufacturers, right? There's a few different ways of looking at a situation like that, right? Okay, it could be very exciting, but unfortunately, I'm a bit of a negative cunt, so I look at what could be the downside, right? As a tyre manufacturer, if I was a tyre manufacturer, I'd be a little concerned if having, let's say, for example, Vettel or Kevin Magnussen coming on the radio and going, oh, fucking hell, these palings are fucking shitter than those shores. Those shores were brilliant. That's battering my business now.
Yeah, but then that forces you to go make a better product for the next race.
But what if you can't? All of a sudden you have but James, all of a sudden, right, you're bringing a war, a battle of the tyres, which doesn't need to be there. It shouldn't be there.
Yeah, but imagine a situation, right? You've got somebody out in front on let's say, for example, on a certain car, the Bridgestone works really well, but on, let's say, for example, the Ferrari, the Bridgestone works amazing. They can get it working fantastic. Only works for about 20 laps and then it falls off the cliff. Mercedes, they can use it and they can go really long with it, but it's not giving them that performance. But the Michelin is giving them fantastic performance and they can get 30 laps out.
Okay. Would you like to explain the different tyre compounds to me for this current championship? I'm not on about soft, medium and hard. I'm on about the C.
The compounds?
Yeah, what the actual number of compounds are and what effect they have and what relevance they are to previous year's tyres. Because if that... Okay, you can't. Okay. So when it comes to watching a race... Just like I don't want to watch a race and go, Hamilton doesn't seem to be doing very well this week, and then finding out, it's because the engine he's using is on its 6th race, right? All of a sudden, you've got commentary teams going, yeah, Lewis Hamilton's really fast at the moment, but that's only because he's got the Bridgestone tyres on that work well with this car, and Vettel's got the other tyres on that aren't very good on his car at the moment, so wait a little while until he swapped his tyres, and he swapped his tyres, it could all change about. No, sorry, fuck that. Tyres, engine, driver, steering wheel, battle it out on track. Let's see who's best. Make it simple.
I don't get what your point is here, right? What is your point with like, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying, I might be getting you completely wrong here. I'm not saying that Bridgestone turn up with 3 different tyre compounds.
No.
They just
I'm
show
not.
up with, these are our tyres.
I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is, I get what you're saying. They could all be pretty much exactly the same compound, capable of the same things, and every car has to use one of each compound in a race, right? What I'm saying is, from a tyre manufacturer point of view, it's not a situation that they're going to be willing to put money into. From from a team situation, you don't want that either. You want to be able to go, right, these are the tyres, let's work our car with these tyres, not, we've got to spread it. From a fan's point of view, it's adding another factor into the race that doesn't need to be there, a little bit like DRS. It's another thing that needs explaining every week. Whereas if they were to do what they've got now, where they go, okay, you've got soft, mediums and hards. Yes, there's different compounds, but don't worry about that, folks. We're going to make it easy for you. At every race, it's soft, mediums and hards, right?
Yeah.
But in the race, you've got to use every one of the compounds. That then gives you what the effect you want from your different tyre manufacturers, right? Because different compounds of tyres at different times, with a 2-stop strategy at every race to mix things up a little bit. You could have some of the smaller teams going for multiple stops, or you could have so many different strategies that doesn't need a lot of explanation and keeps things simple within the team.
But it's like a team could go, right, we're going to do a short stint on the soft compound, so go and do 10 quali laps. And then we're going to put you on the hard compound because you've made up positions. So then when you go on the hardest compound, you just got to then keep that, because they've started on the medium compound. So they've gone medium to the soft to the hard. So it gives them that stint in the middle of going onto the soft compound or at the end when they can really push hard on the tyres for a short period of time, instead of having to sit back and save the tyres and not push.
The thing is,
this is the reason why I mention it. It's because I'm sick of watching drivers going, if we push the tyres too hard, we can't do it. Whereas if you brought other tyre manufacturers into the equation, it would force Pirelli to create better tyres. Because let's say
Pirelli create what they're told to.
Hang on, Dave.
I'm hanging on. What do you want to do with it?
Just hang on. What I'm trying to say is, hang on. Fucking hell. What I'm trying to say is, the tyre manufacturers, you said to me that they wouldn't be interested in it because there's a possibility of certain teams or drivers going, well, we don't really like that tyre, right? So we're not going to use it as much as we do with another brand. And therefore, it might hurt their product. But not, if you think about it, Formula One is all about different teams. And just think about it as different teams with different engines. People do the same thing where, for a certain number of years, the Honda was shit. And everybody was ripping the Honda engine, including us with Hando. But then it gets to a situation where Honda are actually pulling the weight a bit, and you start looking at other teams like Renault with their engine and thinking to yourself, well, hang on, if Honda are outdoing the Renault, and all I'm saying is that you might have a few years where you struggle. I'm pretty sure when Bridgestone first came into Formula 1, they struggled. But what created by them staying in the sport and pushing themselves to be the best tyre were a fantastic situation where I can remember Schumacher blitzing round on a set of Bridgestones, and what do I go out and buy? I go out and buy a set of Bridgestones because I've got that memory of their good tyres.
I didn't. They were too fucking expensive.
Right now, I do not want to ever buy a set of Pirellis. So I don't know what Pirelli are doing in Formula 1.
What Pirelli are doing is making the tyre they are being asked to make by the FIA.
But it's got to be costing them money.
Oh yeah, of course it costs. It probably does cost them money, but they know that they can go, we are making what our customer is asking for. Now, if their customer was to ask for faster tyres, that could last longer, could they make them? Yeah, too fucking right they could. Fucking right they could.
But this is it. But could they make them as good as good as another manufacturer? And the competition for me is always competition in everything. If you've got competition in different tyre manufacturers, you create a situation where all the different tyre manufacturers are fighting for their tyres to be on that car as long as possible.
Now listen, right. Just so you don't misunderstand me, I would have no problem with Formula One saying, right, we are opening it up to other tyre manufacturers, so a team can have a choice of whether they want to run Pirellis or Bridgestones or Michelins or Avons or whatever it may be. I think it's just that idea of forcing teams to run on a different tyre manufacturer, for me, don't work as a whole prospect.
No, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do. But like the same as us saying you'd have to use every compound, instead of it being you'd have to use every compound, you'd have to use every tyre manufacturer. I get that, and I'm against that.
Yeah.
Because that
still don't get your point why you're against it.
Because it's attempting to add something in the wrong way, right? I would rather a team go, you know what, we're going to test out the Bridgestones and see what they're like, and we're going to test out the Michelins and see what they're like, and then look at their data and go, you know what, the Michelins work better for us, let's maximise our package with this tyre, right? Rather than a team go, oh, you know what, we may have to neutralise our car a bit to work on each tyre, or make one work really better than the other. But again, from a fan perspective, sitting there watching the race, I don't want to have the complication of a commentator having to try and explain to me the multiple different potential tyres that each driver is on, giving a different aspect to the current race situation. It's an additional factor. It's a little bit like, imagine watching football, but the commentator's got to tell you what pair of boots every player's wearing every 5 minutes.
It's exactly the same as what we're getting now, though. Only we're getting a really shit version of it.
Hang on.
We're getting different tyre compounds and going, he's going on to the hard mark tyre, and you're like, well, they're all going to be shit anyway.
Yeah, but this is something that Dave was mentioning, though. Right. Pirelli can make the softest compound of tyre last the whole race if they want to. All right. So it'd be super fast, super durable, and it could last for 2 races if they really wanted.
Yeah.
But why don't they? Not because
the regulations are not allowing them to do so, because the teams are wanting a fake, artificial Grand Prix, which creates shit racing. And the most exciting thing about that entire race was one mistake. Hang on. One right now?
All right, hang on then. All right. So if you were to bring your concept into Formula One, and Vettel makes that mistake, it could have come down to the fact that it was on shit tyres.
Well,
right? But then it's fake. Like you just said.
What?
The wording you've just said a moment ago was, it's you know. Well,
is anybody else lost with this conversation?
Right.
I'm on stream. What are you on about?
Right. Right, something you just mentioned a moment ago about the 3 compounds, and I said that they could make the softest compound last as long as they want to, but they don't, and that's because you said they engineer it that way to make fake racing.
Yeah.
Well, right, bring 3 tyre compounds in, and some teams will be worse. So 3 manufacturers of tyres. Some teams are going to be worse on different manufacturer of tyre. That's what you're saying. Well, that's bringing it fake. That's bringing fake racing in.
Well, no, it ain't, because each individual team would probably go, well, that particular manufacturer works well with our car, which might be completely different to another team down the grid. So we're going to try to use that tyre as long as possible in the race, because that's the best for us.
I reckon we just go to Back to the Future hoverboards. Wipe out. I mean, things. It's an interesting concept. It's just not one that I agree with. Sorry, James. I didn't know it was going to spark such a disagreement.
No, I wanted to get to the root of why you didn't think it were a great idea. That we're all.
There's multiple reasons.
My main, I'll tell you, I've not really said my main problem with it, but my main problem with it is that when I'm sat watching it, Formula One, all right, at the moment I can get to grips with he's on soft, he's on medium, he's on hard, and what that means. He's on soft, which means it's fast but doesn't last long, and the hard means it lasts long but not very fast. I can deal with that because it's the same for every car down the grid.
Yeah.
You put in multiple manufacturers in there, and I'm thinking, does that mean he's on the faster tyre or the slower tyre now? I haven't got a clue.
Well, you haven't got a clue. I wouldn't have a clue.
I know.
But you'd find out on track. You'd have some cars getting close, overtaking.
No, but you're going to be watching. He's going slow. Why is he going slow? Has he got an engine problem?
They've all got engine problems.
They'll come over at Team Radio and go, these fucking Pirellis are shit. Get me some Bridgestones.
Anyway, I think it's time to move on, isn't it, guys? What's next?
Should we do our predictions?
Not yet. I want to know if either of you saw anything about Williams' Twitter feed.
Yes, I did.
Did you, James?
Don't worry, we won't.
Basically, right, James, someone called King Blazing Fox on Twitter commented on the Williams. It was after qualifying because Williams had posted about where they qualified P19, P20, and this King Blazing Fox sends them a message saying, "Keep fighting, guys," to which they replied, "Don't worry, we won't." James thinking, yeah, what's wrong with that?
I don't get it. What?
Right. Right, James, say these words. No, that's all right, it doesn't matter. What I was going to do, it's as simple as this, James. Someone said to Williams, "Keep fighting, guys," and they said, "Don't worry, we won't."
Right, okay, yeah. It's a double negative, yeah. Right, I get what you mean.
Hey? No.
Someone was being positive to Williams and saying, look on the bright side and keep fighting, keep your hopes up, and just keep fighting. Yeah. And Williams have come back and said, "Don't worry, we won't," as if to say, "Don't worry, we won't fight."
Yeah, which is what everyone's started going on with.
Yeah.
What? You won't fight?
A double negative. Have you ever heard of a double negative?
I've heard of a double negative, but that's not a double negative. That's a fuck up.
Yeah, that's what you call a double negative, a fuck up.
No.
Where you mean something, but you've said it in the wrong way.
No, a double negative is you've got really nice eyes considering how big they are.
No, that's a two-handed compliment. That a two-sided compliment.
Double-handed.
What is it when you
Backhanded.
get a three-way? What's it when you get a three-way?
Ménage à trois.
Shit sandwich. You give them a bit of positivity, then you give them what you say, what you're thinking, and then at the end you give them a bit of positivity, like, "I'll go and say you can do it, can't you?"
I can see that our discussion has really melted our minds. Right, time to get on to the predictions, I reckon. See how we did there.
Unless you want to do one more thing before then.
Depends on what that is. Oh!
You asked me to send you a picture.
Hang on, before this. I were originally going to get onto a different argument, right?
Oh, God, right.
Not regarding tyres. Hear me out. Imagine.
Mute him, Dave.
Imagine, right? You've got, for example, a certain section of track, which is your penalty zone.
Right.
So, for example, at Canada, you'd have your penalty zone for if you'd done instead of what the stewards can do now, where they go, you got a 5-second penalty, a 10-second penalty or a 20-second penalty. What the teams,
Or a drive-through penalty.
Or a drive-through.
Or a stop-go penalty.
Or a stop-go penalty. I believe that a drive-through penalty and a stop-go penalty should still be there, but the stop-go should be for the harshest. You know, if somebody ended up out of the race because of you have a stop-go. 10 seconds holding still and then going. But for situations in the more lenient aspect of the rules, you could have 3 sections of road, a bit like the
road.
So imagine the hairpin at Montreal. Imagine where the hairpin is now. Like you get a driver who brakes too late into that corner and goes a bit wide. Well, imagine that is your first penalty zone. So you have to go a bit wider
around the bollard.
Maybe not round the bollard, but you've got to go. It's like extends the racetrack by an extra 100 metres.
Drew says punch go penalty. You stop, get punched, and go again.
Punch go, yeah. That's what better. Anyway, so you've got the most lenient one. So you've got it extends the racetrack by 100 metres. Then you've got a mediocre one which extends the track by 200 metres. And then before you've got into a situation where you need to do a drive-through because you took somebody out, where it's a harsh penalty, which would normally be like a 10-second added onto your time, you've got to go through a 300-metre extra portion of the track, and you've got something like 5. You've got, once it's given on screen what your penalty is, you've got something like 5 laps in order to complete your penalty. So for situations like what we had at Montreal, where it was saying you've got a 5-second penalty, what it'd be is, let's say, for example, you've got to do 300 metres extra on the racetrack. A bit like what you see with Formula E, where they've got to go through that zone, but it's off the racing line. But I'm saying about a bit of an extension. So it's not only unfortunate, you're going to dirty up your tyres, so that's also part of the penalty. But also, rather than having to go offline, you're having to extend, obviously, so that your lap time, it would average out that each one adds 2 seconds onto your
kind of like a penalty extension now in sectors.
Yeah.
So how do they do that at Monaco?
Basically, you'd end up with either a small penis, a medium penis, or a big penis.
Yeah. And in Sebastian Vettel's case,
see if anyone else clocked onto what I did.
Yeah. Well, it'd be an extender. Right.
Penalty extension now in sectors. Yeah. Penis.
Yeah. So, yeah. And there you go. So, the situation that we had
hang on, James. Toto Wolff saying, wouldn't a drive-through be easier? Yes, it would.
Yes, it would. But it obviously it's hard to explain. But if it was out there on track, I think MotoGP have the same situation. I'm pretty sure MotoGP have a situation where, rather than being given a time penalty, they're sent down like an extra piece of track which adds 2 seconds onto the lap time. Therefore, we would not have been deprived of the racing, and there would have been a situation where if Vettel had have pulled out enough of a gap, he'd have done the extension and possibly still come out in front of Lewis. But also on the other hand, he'd have done the extension and come out behind Lewis. The race is still on. There's not this looming 5 seconds hanging over you. The race is still on, so Vettel would still been in a situation where it'd been like, we've got 20 laps, we can try and overtake him. You're right up his ass.
You know what, James? I like your idea, but I don't like your idea.
Well, they could
just to be argumentative.
No, but they could do it in quite a simple way. It doesn't necessarily even need to be in a track extension, because you think of Canada and you think of the last chicane. you could do it where they've got to take to the where they've got the bollard on the near the pit wall, where if you brake too late, you have to go around through the bollard bit before you return. Or just have a bit of track there with like a little extra bit of chicane in it that makes you go slower. And if you've got a 5 second, what equivalent to a 5 second penalty now, you've got to do it once. But if it's a 10-second penalty, you've got to do it on 2 occasions.
Yeah.
If it's a 20-second penalty, you'd have to do it on 4 occasions.
Yeah. But at least for a viewer, you're physically seeing the cars finish the race in the right order. That's the problem for me.
They do it where you either take the penalty by taking the additional route, or the 5 seconds get settled on at the end of the race.
I don't think there'd have been as much controversy if you'd have added that, because if you'd have added that where Vettel went through a loop road, extender or whatever, penis, what Dave said. So you had Vettel driving through the penis, which is the extension, and then he comes out behind Hamilton and he's fighting for the win. The fact that the cars went over the finish line with the checkered flag, the graphic comes up with the correct driver winning the race.
Yeah, I saw that.
Therefore, the public are not as confused. I know we've just banged on for 20 minutes about confusion of tyres. I think a lot of people in the grandstands that weren't listening to the commentary were befuddled, thinking, well, Vettel's won it, because they wouldn't have been listening to the commentary. They might have seen it on the little miniature TV screen, but some of them might not have even seen that. So then when they see that Hamilton's got P1, they are then going, boo, because they're thinking, what the fuck's going on here? Whereas if you can physically see the cars finish the race in the right order, you wouldn't have as many people going, what the fuck's going on?
I mean, interestingly, Toto saying he thinks just adding the penalty at the end is far easier. Yes, it is far easier, but James has actually validated my point I was making from the earlier argument in that, let's say, I don't know how much of a fan I would be of the extension zones. It's interesting. But as a viewer, you could fully understand exactly what was happening. It's very simple and it does the job, right? So that's kind of what I was getting at with the tyre argument, is that there's no confusion, or a lot less confusion, right?
Yeah.
So with Toto saying that just adding the penalty at the end is easier, that is the easiest way, adding the penalty at the end. Is it? Yeah. It is.
Couldn't the stewards have said to Vettel, we are going to give you a 5 second penalty unless you give Lewis the position?
Okay, that is one option, right? That they could have gone down that route, but then you would have a period of argument of why should I give him the position, blah blah blah, and you'd still end up with
if you don't give him the position within 3 laps, we will give you a 5 second penalty.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an option, but is that easier than just adding 5 seconds onto someone's time at the end? No, that adding time on is considerably easier. Although, if you look at Formula 2,
viewing, it's hard for them to comprehend.
Yes.
They're like, I want to see it on track, I don't want to see it after.
Yeah. I mean, I can see Formula 1, Formula 1 or the FIA should be able... I mean, I would like to think that there is a discussion going on within the FIA, not necessarily of whether the penalty was right or not, but whether the system works in the right way or not.
Because if there's anything, you could whether it were right or wrong, you could clearly see that the layman's watching weren't happy. Now, whether it's right or wrong doesn't really matter, but you've got to say the way that the stewards handed out the penalty system is not sufficient for people watching.
Oh no, by a long. I mean, Steve's mentioned that many times, that it should be a much more informed system. It's a racing incident because blah blah blah. It's a penalty for him because blah blah blah. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of talk in football at the moment about whether referees should wear microphones so that they can actually explain why a certain decision has been given. And to be fair, even footballers have said no, we don't want that. And one of the reasons is there is a relationship between professional footballers and the referees, and as much as footballers give referees shit, referees give it back. And you don't really want to be broadcasting your referee turning around to a footballer giving it, shut the fuck up and get your hair cut, you cunt. You know, it's not it's great television, but it's not great professionalism. But anyway, right, okay. James, I'm interested to know if you know what Ron Dennis has been up to recently.
No, I don't know. I'm not too sure. I thought we were going to talk a bit more about Gunter Steiner before we got on there.
Well, we can talk about Ron Dennis first, because I have found out.
I want to know if Toto Wolff knows what Ron Dennis has been up to.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to show you, James, what.
I'll have to go on my iPad. What is he? Is he creating the new Formula One with all our ideas? Because if he was smart, he would do.
He's keeping himself busy. Let's put it that way. I spotted this straight away. He's working for Sauber.
Why would he do that?
Well, he's working for Alfa Romeo.
Sorry, Alfa Romeo.
He must just want some work experience. Undercover. He's infiltrating Ferrari.
Oh, could be. Yeah, it's.
Don't do it directly. He goes in through the back door of Alfa Romeo.
Spygate Part 2.
Part 2, yeah. That's it.
You know. Okay, let's see. Drew's put a message up. Let's see what Drew's saying. Let's see. What pisses me off is...
Hang on.
What? I haven't photoshopped that picture.
No. I've just seen the message that Steve's put up. My PS name is not Mandalorian.
Mandalorian?
Mandalorian. It's Mandalorian. Mandalorian.
Mandalorian? You nearly said Mandalorian as well, didn't you?
I never said Keith Lorraine then.
Right, okay.
Yeah, anyway.
Right, Drew's saying, what pisses me off is fanboys from both teams. Everyone needs to judge justly and fairly. I hate people like that. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
right.
Everyone's allowed their opinion.
Yeah.
And that says... But anyway, move on.
Okay, yeah, James, you mentioned something about Gunter Steiner.
Gunter Steiner.
I was just going to say what a legend he is. All team bosses need to like him. Imagine Sebastian having him as team boss. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Sid, just shut the fuck up, mate.
Well, I didn't know you had 4 championships. It doesn't fucking matter, mate. I don't know where it's from, so he's Austrian, isn't he? Gunter Steiner.
I tell you, Vettel needs as his engineer, Mark Webber. Fucking hilarious.
Oh, Jesus.
Imagine that. Shut the fuck up, mate. Get on with it.
G'day, mate.
Multi 21.
Yeah. You're doing well, mate. You're doing well.
Not bad for number 2 driver.
But yeah. Yeah. What bit after Ron Dennis then? Next on the agenda.
We need to go through how we got on with the predictions. That's what one thing we were going to do. So let's see what we've got to get through here then. You know what? I was going to have a look to see, have a recap of our predictions, but I decided not to. So let's have a look. Oh, right, okay, actually. Okay, right. So, pole position. Steve, you said it'd be Hamilton.
And it was Vettel.
So, no points for you. James, you said it'd be Hamilton. So, no points for you. I said it'd be Leclerc, so no points for me.
I got away with one there.
Yeah. Winner. Steve said it'd be Hamilton. James said it'd be Leclerc. And I said it'd be Bottas.
None of us had Vettel down for it.
No. Okay, podium 3. Steve, do you remember who you went for?
I remember Hamilton, Bottas, and Max.
Nope.
Think-
Hamilton, Bottas, and Leclerc.
Oh, okay.
So you get 4 points for Hamilton in the right place and Leclerc in the right place. James, you went for Hamilton, Bottas, and Vettel. So you get 3 points. 2 for Hamilton being in the right place and 1 for Vettel being on the podium. Oh, for fuck's sake. I went... Oh, actually, no. Actually, I've done all right here. I went for Bottas, Vettel, and Leclerc. So I get 4 points for Vettel and Leclerc being in the right place. Fucking get in. Okay, first to crash out. Which was for the race, not for the weekend. Did anybody crash out, guys?
Nobody crashed out. No. Well, you can't really say that Lando crashed, can you? Just kind of...
That was a failure.
Yeah. Okay, well, Steve said nobody would. That which was a risky fucking guess.
I think we shouldn't be allowed nobody, because
it's a very wide open.
It's a wide open one.
Yeah.
Hey, you both could say nobody as well.
You got way more chance of saying nobody than you have got saying one driver.
Yeah, but I've got way more chance of Hamilton winning every week with me saying Hamilton. All I've done is gone statistically. This is what's likely to happen.
Dave, I know we've disagreed through a lot of this podcast, but you've got to agree with me.
No, we haven't.
You need to put a rule in here.
No, we haven't. We haven't disagreed at all.
We did with the tyres, didn't we?
I'm disagreeing with you. No, I agree with you. From now on, nobody's banned. Yeah, right. And James went for Albon. And I went for Verstappen, and I mean, to be fair, it was a race at Canada without a safety car and without a crash, which is remarkable for Canada, really.
Yep, 50% chance of a safety car.
Yeah. Okay, Team Dick of the Day is what we one of our extra predictions even. And,
I have my thoughts.
Well, I've got mine. My thoughts is, although they're not with a car, the stewards.
No, I agree with what the stewards did.
Yeah, I do agree with the stewards. So, unfortunately, I think we have to go majority there.
All right, okay.
What I would say is,
as well, we did say in the past, we did say, because I said previously Ferrari are Dick of the Day, and you said to me, you cannot have a collective group, it has to be an individual.
Yeah, but this is Team of the Day. Anyway, come on. Who
right. Okay, I'm going to put my case forward, all right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be the reason for both cars, because I'm going to say Toro Rosso. Kvyat did well, all right? But the fact that they pulled Albon away from racing just to save his engine,
it's Dick,
for
Dick
me,
of the Day, not Dicks. We've just said we're not allowed teams.
No, James. It was
James. We picked teams for this one.
We called it.
We?
Yeah, we called it Team Dick of the Day.
We called this Team Dick of the Day.
Just
but
call the entire thing James is Dick of the Day.
Right. So I would say Toro Rosso for stopping Albon from racing to save his engine. For me, as a spectator, I want to see the car on the track.
I'd say Ferrari for not being more in control of Vettel when he threw his temper tantrum.
James, you do not want to say Ferrari.
Well, actually, I'm going to change my thought. If Ferrari should have told Leclerc what was happening.
I tell you what, right? I reckon we put this to our viewers because we've got a few that are listeners, a few that are listening in now. Right, come on, guys. In the chat, put who you would award Team Dick of the Day to. and whoever gets the majority will be the deciding factor. I can kind of agree with Steve in his point that Toro Rosso have taken a perfectly functioning car off the track to save the engine. And that for me is a bit, I don't like that at all. But I also see James's point of view about Ferrari. They should have told Leclerc about the time penalty. They should have told Vettel to fucking shut the fuck up and get on with it and open up a gap.
Well, this is it. Vettel made the mistake. It was his problem, but he would also have the potential to rectify it, and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think if we'd have done driver of the day, dick of the day, I'd have said Vettel, not for the temper tantrum in the pit lane, that was hilarious, but I'd say the temper tantrum in the cockpit and losing his shit, rather than being the man and going, right, I'll fucking deal with it then, other than driving Hamilton into the wall.
I mean, one thing I will say is Vettel's temper tantrum, that is true reality TV. Not all this Love Island bullshit.
Well, you're not. That's well. That's all I've got in my fucking head. That bloody little buzz thing for start a program.
Yeah. I don't even know what it's like, James. I'm safe. Well, we've had three put forward.
Hang on, have we got somebody else joining in? Hello?
Hello?
Who's that in the background? Somebody joining in?
It was Claire.
Oh yeah, she's joining in.
I thought it was Vicky. We've had 3 comments: Ferrari, Haas, Williams every race. No.
I would have to disagree with Haas because they did a great job putting that car back on the track.
That would drive a dick. Yeah, that would drive a dick. I'd say, as much as I don't want to say it, because I know Steve's going to get points, you've got to give it to Ferrari, because they are just a set of... They've got the most fantastic equipment in the world. They get paid way more than any other team. Just keep fucking shooting himself in the foot.
And with Williams, to be fair, they beat someone.
Yeah, they did. I fear for Robert Kubica. I don't think he's going to be in F1 much, because he were nowhere again.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the guys on the chat mentioned that Kubica is getting battered by George Russell and Latifi, who did, I'm not sure if it was Friday FP1, has been shown to be faster than Kubica.
But they did put Kubica on a 2-stop strategy just to see what difference it would make.
I mean, given the situation that Williams are in, they may as well learn as much as they can because they ain't going to be getting anything else. So they may as well get knowledge. I was going to say, could give it Haas because Magnussen got beat by Williams. But again, that's Magnussen's fault.
But it was more to do with the fact that he put it in the wall in quality.
Yeah.
But the team did well to put the car back on the grid.
Yeah. I mean, saying that, Mercedes team did well with Lewis Hamilton's car with the problems he had before the race. I mean, Renault, they were fantastic all weekend, finishing 6th and 7th, so they're not in the running for it. Neither is Red Bull. Racing Point, to be fair, Stroll had a good race and Perez didn't, but their team didn't do anything wrong. I think I'm going to have to agree with James with saying Ferrari.
It has to be. There's no other.
Okay.
There's no other on that scale of dick of the day.
Yeah. Which means that Steve gets a point.
Unfortunately.
I get a point. And James, you don't get anything because you said Red Bull.
But at least I'm honest.
Oh. Okay.
You're trying to say we're not?
Steve's never honest when it comes to points. He'll make up any old shit to win.
True. Right, the last prediction that we made was who will be last to finish, not including the Williams.
Ooh, so it was Ericsson then?
No, Ericsson's in IndyCar. Fucking hell.
Magnussen.
Yes, Magnussen it was. Steve,
Blame Ericsson for everything.
Yep. Steve, you said it'd be Hulkenberg, and it wasn't. James, you said it'd be Stroll, and he had his best race in a long time.
He did.
Yeah. And I said it'd be Giovinazzi. So no points for either of us there. Once again, though, James, we've been fucking hammered.
There's no point. Who came up with this game? We need a better one.
No, you just need to be better at it. So do I. Let's see. James, you scored 3 points. I scored 5 points. Steve scored 7 points. Bear in mind, we have got our season predictions, right, that we made, which at some point we're going to have to decide how many points are given for each of those end of season predictions, okay? Which could have a massive impact. But the total points at the moment, James is on 19 points.
I'm like Vettel, don't even think about the championship. I'm not going to win.
I am on 22 points. So it's close between me and you, James. And Steve is on 41 points.
Yeah. Steve's the Mercedes-Benz of this company.
Yeah.
Right, how many points ahead am I at this stage then?
19.
So, yeah.
Right. How many points for a win in Formula 1?
25.
25 points. Right. End of season predictions. 25 points per correct decision. So you've still got a chance.
Fucking hell.
No way. You know,
Or if that's too much, then make it. How many races are there this season? Is it 20 or 21?
21,
I think. If it's 21, do 21 points. So it's like an extra point per race.
he's been generous.
He is.
Giving you the chance. I don't even know what predictions we made.
Yeah, but you know that if we do this, what seems like a good idea at the time,
It's only going to help Steve.
It's going to help Steve because then when we win, he'll go, but you only won because of them points difference.
Mm-hmm.
All right, making no points then.
No, I've written it in 21 points now. Also, I'm not going to tell you what the predictions were, but I'll save them for the end.
I think we need to remind ourselves of what yours were, though, in case you change it.
No, I wouldn't change it at all. To be fair,
I'll listen back to the
you
first
would
podcast.
be able, you would be able to track it back to the first podcast, and it would not be different. Right, is there anything else that you want to talk about regarding this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix?
I just want to say that, yeah, the stewards give the decision, and the main talking point has been about that. But
The main talking point should have been Vettel fucked up again.
yes, exactly.
If he
and
didn't
that was
fuck
not
up-
brought up at all.
No, if he didn't fuck up, he would not have got a
He
penalty.
would not have got a penalty.
The main talking point should have been Vettel fends off Hamilton, but it
But
wasn't.
he didn't fend him off.
Well,
Hamilton didn't need to overtake him.
true.
Yeah.
True. Okay. Anyway, next race is in 2 weeks' time, around, as Steve Whitfield calls it, the pole parking lot Ricard. Of which a few of the comments after that is mentioning about how shit the track is. It's not a great track, I don't think. I know when we reviewed the race there last year, there was a hell of a lot of piss easy DRS overtakes, and I think it was only Bottas overtaking anywhere else other than easily breezing past in DRS. I can't see that it's going to be an exciting race there at all.
No, but if you set your expectations low, you've got no to be
Disappointed by.
disappointed with. Mind you, I was disappointed once when I said, what race were it? We won this earlier this year. I said, oh, it's usually a shit race. What did I say now? What races have we been to? Australia,
Bahrain,
Bahrain were good.
Baku.
China.
Baku, China, Baku, China. And where else have we been?
Monaco.
Spain.
Have we
I
been?
says,
Not
I
been
says-
there yet, have we?
have we been to Spain? Been to Spain, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I was winding
Yeah.
you up.
Yes, we have. Yeah, they
yeah,
have been to Spain.
Yeah. So yeah, Spanish Grand Prix really disappointed me. Not only because I knew it was going to be a shit race, but Vicky went, I'm going out for tea with my mum. We're going to go to this pub. They do the best pub lunch. Do you want to come? And my brain were going, a Spanish Grand Prix or a nice pub lunch. I went, oh, it's usually a crap race. Oh, I'll stick and watch it. It might be good. I fucking wish I'd have gone. It were dog shit. We dog shit, and Vicky come back going, that were best pub lunch I've ever had. I thought, fucking hell. Rub some salt in wound, why don't you?
Oh, yeah. Even if it had been terrible, she'd have said the same thing. But, well. Right, I don't think I've got anything else that I wanted to mention about the Grand Prix, really. I mean, it wasn't the worst that I've seen. It wasn't the best that I've seen.
No, it were entertaining, and I've got to say, as a viewer, whether it's right or wrong or what, the penalty did diffuse the race. Now, if Formula 1 could look at that and understand how not to diffuse the race, but at the same time, I bet you a tenner, if you'd have put Michael Schumacher in Vettel's position, that would not have diffused the race. That would have made the race more intense because they'd have just said quali laps every lap till the end. It'd have gone for it, and it'd have been, can he pull out 5 seconds? If he can pull out 5 seconds, he's won.
Well, it's a little bit like with Max at Monaco when his engineer said, right, Max, you've been given a 5-second penalty, which will be added at the end of the race. Overtake him and open up a gap if you want.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you should play it.
Yeah.
And Ferrari, dick of the day, because they're a set of dickheads.
Mm-hmm.
Too much money.
You know what? Drew has just said that he hopes it rains at the French Grand Prix, and you know what? That would make that race a hell of a lot more exciting, because that track in the dry is effectively, I think, a Mercedes Goldfield. Their car will handle that track. It's a tyre killer, but their car will handle it. The Ferraris are going to struggle there. Red Bull will be strong there. But you bring rain into it, and I think you've got a potential Red Bull winning situation. Or even, if they get their car right, a Renault could get themselves into the mix. We don't know what the Ferrari is going to be like in the wet or the Mercedes.
Oh, yeah. That one thing I'm going to just say. You carry on, and I'll
Sorry, obviously we don't know what any of the cars are really going to be like in the wet, but the Ferrari showed a little bit of weakness in dirty air at Canada with Vettel at the wheel. The Mercedes is a very twitchy car anyway, but it's quick, so I don't think that's a car that will grip well in the wet. So if it does rain, I think it could make for a much more exciting race.
Right. The one thing I want to mention before we go, I watched the Nico Rosberg podcast with Danny Ricciardo, and it were filmed around the Monaco Grand Prix, just after. And they got to a certain section where he says, they were on about Danny Ricciardo's crazy overtakes, and that he's struggled to get used to the brakes in the Renault. So it must have only been recently we had this conversation.
Yeah.
And Nico Rosberg he says, I can remember exactly the settings that I had to put in on my Mercedes-Benz in 2016. in order to be competitive under braking so that I could overtake people, because that was my biggest weakness in all the rest of the years. I felt like I couldn't go for the overtakes. I knew I was going to lock up and go off. And he says, that final year I nailed it. And he says, when I had to do that crazy move on Max Verstappen, I knew I'd really nailed it. And that was what won me the championship. And when they were told, look, you need to get back past Max Verstappen now, or the title's over. And he used the braking technique, and he's telling him about it. And the podcast then, as soon as he starts talking about the exact settings that he used in that final race at Abu Dhabi, it's all bleeped out. It's all boo doo doo, and I switched my switch boo boo boo, and it's all beeped. All of it's beeped. And Ricardo sat there going, right. He goes, right, so is that more front or rear? And he's going, it's more boop, 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 boop. So you have no clue what on earth Rosberg's talking about. And then to see the Renault so good on the brakes against that Mercedes-Benz, I was thinking to myself, I bet he's dialed in them braking settings, because there were certain moments where Bottas should have easily done him under braking into the final chicane. And it was literally like that Renault had Red Bull brakes all of a sudden.
Yeah. It did seem a lot more like that. I mean, we did say a few podcasts ago that if you're Renault or if you're Danny Ricciardo, you should be saying to Renault, look, there's more in these brakes. I know there is because I've had it at Red Bull. But it's interesting that it was beeped out. Obviously, then that was classified information.
Yeah. But I did find it a bit. I was kind of like, I watched the reaction video with Nico Rosberg. I've got to say, while Nico Rosberg was in Formula One, I didn't really like him. But since he's been on doing these podcasts, I don't know if his personality changed or I've just warmed up to him a lot. But it just seems a hell of a lot more of a nicer bloke than he ever did when he was racing. Probably he had to be a bit more cold and a bit of a knobhead in order to say, don't mess with it. But in his podcasts, I really do recommend them. But as well, just in the reaction video to the Canadian Grand Prix, he did say it looked like Danny Ricciardo had been taking me tips about the braking into the chicane, which was quite nice to see. And I was like, I bet you a tenner. It really did work.
It probably has. I mean, interesting. Steve Whitfield saying on the chat that Ricardo needs to be told to cut the weaving out on the straits. And
yeah, I was kind of getting a bit.
I don't see a problem with that, Steve.
But if Bottas had gone flying up in the air like that, whether we'd have seen a problem with it. I was kind of. He was very, very smart in positioning himself so that he could get away with deniability. But then I think it was the second time around where I think we've seen it before, like Kimi Raikkonen at Spa coming up behind Max Verstappen, and at the last moment he moves, and it were a bit dangerous. I think it's one of them where he was getting a bit weavy beyond.
Well, it's the fact that he's reacting to Bottas's overtake rather than being proactive in where he defends, and that's where there's a very thin line, and it's where the stewards had that problem with the Verstappen rule, because it's like you've got to, you're allowed to defend, but when is it too late to defend?
Oh yeah, but it's only like what I did to you yesterday, Steve. You said
when you pulled across in front of me.
Exactly. No, I pulled across in front of you. I was technically
and hit the brakes.
I was technically in front of you, but at the same time, I gave no respect to you. So you've got the rules saying, well, you're in front, but the reality and etiquette of racing.
Yeah, I mean, I had the closing speed I had on you. There was no way I could avoid hitting you when you pulled across in front of me.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's what Ricardo was doing to Bottas in an actual league race. I wouldn't dream of doing that, but
I've seen you do it.
I was going to say, let's get the clips ready.
Let's get the bloody show reel going. But yeah. No, it was a good race. It could have been more exciting, but I think the hunt between Vettel and Hamilton made it watchable. But then, once that penalty, it did diffuse it, and it made you go, oh, but it could have still been on. And I think the fact that everybody went, oh, the race was robbed from us, I think it were all down to the fact that Vettel lost his shit after the situation, rather than dealing with it like a man.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Right, I think it's about time we bring this podcast to an end. It's been an interesting one, that is for sure.
For sure.
So, yeah, a couple of weeks until Canada. Not Canada, Canada's been. A couple of weeks until France. But in the meantime, Steve, I think yours and Ray's Racing League's getting going again, isn't it, soon?
It is. Excuse me. This Thursday. Sorry, I've got a bit of a dry throat.
You sort your throat out. So yeah, this Thursday there's a league race starting.
Is that?
There is, yeah. And I think is it just me, or is it going to be the fourth season of the DGT League Racing League?
We're not counting seasons. We're not going to go season 1, season 2. We're not counting seasons. It's just going to be known as the Grevo Cup because we're using the Group 3 Evo with the settings set to standard. So basically no tuning allowed. It's all preset, which means it's great for drivers that don't get much time to practice or work on setups because they can just jump in the car, jump on the track and get used to it. So it's going to make the racing a lot closer. Although the people that do have a bit of time to practice will benefit from understanding the tyre wear a bit more and how to manage the tyres. I say that, but Dave the Art's been putting in loads of practice and he's still not figured it out yet. But yeah, it's on Gran Turismo Sport and we've got a YouTube channel. Dynamic GT League, and about 4 days afterwards, normally about 4 days afterwards after the race, and we have the race footage up and available to watch. Although I think this first one of this season might be a little bit later going up because of commitments.
Yeah, and not the band. If you're old enough, you'll remember that. James obviously isn't old. If you've never seen the film The Commitments, James, watch it. But Steve Whitfield and Dave the Arp will be like, yeah, I remember that film. Drew will be like, what the fuck are you on about,
what
mate?
the fuck? What? Yeah.
I fucking totally lost train of thought. What was I on about then? But what was we on about? Oh yeah, your Racing League. Yeah, so check that out. But yeah, the first one is going to be late up because I am going to be not at home for a few days to edit that together. Right, okay. I think it's time to say goodbye. Thank you everyone for listening in and tuning in. If you wish to, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. We'll definitely be back in a couple of weeks' time and probably be on next week because we're going to need to do our predictions for France. Anyway.
Oh, France.
Or France, Dave the Arp saying one of my favourite movies. Yeah, up there with Rita, Bob and Sue too. All right, and on that bombshell, on that bombshell, before anyone sings the song, have a good one, folks. I will see you all again soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Blah 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 blah.